The first scream came through the security radio at exactly 2 in the morning. It was my own voice, screaming for help. But I was sitting alone in the booth, my mouth closed. I had taken the night shift at the old factory because no one else wanted it. Pay was better after midnight, and the building was supposed to be empty. My job was simple: watch the cameras, walk the halls once an hour, and report anything unusual. I always thought night shifts were quiet. I was so wrong. The factory stood at the edge of town, right where the streetlights gave up. It was a massive concrete block with broken windows and rusted doors. During the day, it just looked abandoned. At night, it felt awake. The air inside was cold and smelled of old oil and metal. Every sound seemed to echo for just a little too long. The first few hours passed slowly. The cameras showed empty hallways. The machines sat silent, like sleeping animals. At 1:30, the lights flickered. Screens buzzed with static for a second, then returned to normal. I made a note, telling myself it was just old wiring. Then, at 2, the radio crackled to life, and that screamed my scream tour through the speaker. I grabbed the radio and called out, but there was no response. The cameras showed nothing. I checked the log. No other guards were scheduled. I was completely alone. Still, the radio breathed softly, like someone was holding it just a little too close to their mouth. I stood up and began my round. My footsteps echoed through the long corridor. The fluorescent lights overhead hummed a low, constant tune. As I passed the loading bay, I smelled smoke. Not fresh smoke, but something old and bitter, like burned cloth. The floor even felt warmer in that spot. I picked up my pace. Then I saw it. On the camera in section 4, there was movement. Kaya was standing near the conveyor belt. Kaya was tall and thin, facing the camera directly. It didn't move. I zoomed in. The face, Kaya, it was wrong. Pale and stretched. The eyes were dark, empty pits. The mouth opened slowly, forming a silent scream. And then the screen went black. The lights in the hallway shut off. I was plunged into absolute darkness. My radio hissed, and a whisper slid through the static. It said, "Walk with us." I started backing away, toward the booth. The darkness felt like it was following me. I could hear footsteps right behind me, matching my own, step for step. I broke into a run. The booth door slammed shut right behind me, but I hadn't touched it. The monitors all turned on by themselves. Every single camera showed the same thing: workers standing still at their stations, men and women in old, faded uniforms. Their skin was gray, their eyes hollow. They all faced the cameras, just waiting. I recognized some of their faces from old safety posters tacked to the walls. This factory had a history, okay? Years ago, a fire had swept through the night shift. The exits were locked, the alarms faulty. Dozens of people died. The company paid a few fines and reopened. The dead were never mentioned again. The radio crackled again. A calm voice spoke this time. It said, "The shift never ended." It said, "Someone must always be here." The lights outside the booth flickered back on. Through the glass, I saw them moving now. The dead workers shuffled closer, their feet making no sound on the concrete floor. Their bodies left cold trails in the air. Among them walked a woman dressed in black. Her hair hung loose and tangled. Strange symbols were carved into her arms. She carried a lantern that burned with a dull red glow. A witch. She stopped right in front of the booth and raised her head. Eyes glowed faintly in the dark. She smiled and pressed a hand to the glass. Her voice didn't come from the radio this time. It entered my head directly. She said the fire had bound them here. She said the factory fed on lives. She said the night shift needed to keep her. The door unlocked with a soft click. I didn't move. The floor beneath my feet started to vibrate. Heat rose up fast, and smoke began pouring from the vents. The alarms stayed silent. The monitors showed flames spreading through the building. I could smell burning hair. I heard coughing, and then screams filled the air from every direction. The booth door burst open. Cold, strong hands grabbed me and pulled me into the hallway. Flames licked the walls, but didn't touch the dead. The witch walked beside me, perfectly calm. She pointed ahead. We reached the center of the factory, the exact spot where the fire had started all those years ago. The floor was scorched black, and a circle of symbols glowed faintly on the concrete. The ghost stood around it, watching. The heat was unbearable. My skin felt like it was burning. The witch raised her lantern, and the flames bent away from her. "Listen," she told me. The screams began to change. They turned into words. The dead spoke together, a single chorus. "Stay," they said. "Remember, the shift must continue." I fell to my knees. Smoke filled my lungs, and everything went dark. I woke up to sunlight and silence. I was lying on the factory floor. There was no fire, no smoke, no ghosts. The building looked abandoned and empty, just like it did during the day. The booth was dark. The radio lay on the floor beside me. I scrambled to my feet, ran outside, and never looked back. Weeks later, I found a new job. Another night shift, another empty building. I keep telling myself it will be different this time. But on my first night, the radio on my desk crackles. It's a familiar whisper comes through the static. It says, "Clock in. The shift is waiting." If you enjoyed this story, please hit that like button and subscribe for more. Thanks for listening.